Well, I would say as her dad, but she was. I still say got. I've got three lovely daughters. Molly was the youngest, and she was the most amazing of persons. She was sort of emotionally intelligent, bright, but not sort of super brilliant at school. And the most impressive thing about her was she was never quite like being the centre of attention. But if she felt something wasn't right, if I was perhaps picking on one of her sisters at the dinner table or something, I could remember her eyes flicking between us at the dinner table, and she'd be weighing up what was going on. And she'd gather the information, she'd make up her mind, and if she thought I'd crossed the line, she'd shout out and put her hand up and shout, "Stop it, Dad!" And she would stand up for anything that she felt was unjust or unfair. One of the most caring. She was only 14 when she died, but she was one of the most caring people I've ever known.
Few parents have done more to try and make the world of tech safer for our children than Ian Russell, and he's done it from the saddest of places because his daughter Molly took her own life when she was just 14 after viewing content that encouraged her self-harm and took her down a path of no return. Now, in his film Molly versus the Machines, which you can see on Channel 4 tonight, he turns the tables on the technology, and the film asks AI, and of course that's tech built by the algorithms and imagery and scraping the content. All of that contributed to his daughter's death. He asks that AI to explain Molly's life to us. It is chilling and it is massively powerful. Ian, it's lovely to see you in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Good to see you.
We talk about this a lot on the programme. Both Jane and I have young adults and children ourselves. I have never seen anything as powerful as the opening to your film, though. So I would love you in your own words to explain exactly what I've tried to about what the AI is doing here.
That's extraordinary to hear, because when you work on a project, you get so close to it, you don't quite know how effective it might be anymore. The film begins with that asking an AI computer to speak in the voice of Silicon Valley. And it's something that the director Mark Silver struggle with. The people like me can be interviewed and we can speak on screen, but how do you represent this invisible other force, which is not just affecting children like Molly, but affecting all of us in our everyday life and all of our nations as well? How do you represent something that is intangible and invisible and completely different from anything we've really come across before? And we had long discussions. It's Mark's film, but we had long discussions talking about, should we have a famous voice do the voiceover? Who should that famous voice be? And then Mark was, someone suggested, have you seen this clip? And I think it was something like AI explaining something from the point of view of the devil or something. So he started to play around with an AI engine. And it wasn't long before he put in, from the point of view of Silicon Valley, tell me the story of Molly Russell and her death. And the alarming thing was these AIs came up with bits of script that I don't think any of us would have dared write by ourselves, because we would have thought it would have been too strong, too much hyperbole, not believable. But the AI itself didn't have any of those bashfulnesses, if that's a word, and wrote these extraordinarily chilling, haunting, sinister. It's almost mechanical, isn't it? That opening to the film, which basically sets the scene for the next 80 minutes of the film.
I mean, what's so chilling is that you feel that the AI knows your daughter. we know that the AI never knew your daughter, but also it is trying to be human in its response, but it's not human, and it doesn't say what any real life person would say when asked a question about Molly. And knowing that you're in the room, which is, I'm so sorry about what happened to your child, it can't do that because it's not our friend.
No. I think we're at a crossroads here. We're at a crossroads where the technologies like social media that a coroner concluded contributed in a more than minimal way to Molly's death are still there. And Molly died now more than 8 years ago, and we haven't learned enough lessons. Molly Rose Foundation, the charity we set up in her name, has done research that shows the sort of content that we know Molly saw in the last 6 months of her life and contributed to her death is still available online. It's almost as easy to get to. One extra click it might be to get to. And worse than the fact that it's available on social media platforms, it's still being algorithmically recommended to users. If you dip your toe for whatever reason, if you hover and just pause on a nihilistic, bleak, black and white post that might mention self-harm or suicide, you're likely to get more of that. And the more you look at them, the more you're going to get. That mechanism that contributed to Molly's death is still alive and well, if I can put it that way, on social media. And yet we've got these new technologies, these new things like AI that aren't coming down the tracks. They're well and truly here with us. And we should have learned lessons about social media and applied it to social media. We haven't even done that yet. We need to be ahead of the game, and we haven't learned those lessons, and we're not applying enough foresight to what's coming towards us.
Another thing that we see in the film is a recreation, I mean, almost in real time, of the evidence that was presented at Molly's inquest, and that is using real actors to really bring all of that detail to the fore. And I was flabbergasted by exactly what you've just said, how much you knew at the time that actually that could have also been, you know, God forbid, an inquest that was held last month. You know, we have not travelled very far in that time at all, but you've been knocking on all the right doors. You've been asking all of the right questions. What is that obstinacy about? Is it money?
I think the glittering new world that technologies seem to promise was just accepted without question. It's exciting. It's new. And there's always something fresh and almost shocking about new things. And also, of course, there are huge financial prizes that come with it, because some of the biggest and most profitable companies on the planet are tech companies. So probably each of us as individuals and most nations on the planet were hoodwinked. And we only saw the good side that tech does. And tech, we should also remember, tech does good. We live in a technical world. That isn't going to change. And it brings with it huge amounts of benefits. And we just saw that. And we didn't stop to think about anything that might come with those benefits that wasn't so good. We didn't stop to think how people might misuse the platforms, and how algorithms that were written to promote engagement so that a platform made more money and increased its profits could be very harmful to the people that were using it.
But surely the truth, Ian, is that if you took away all of that very sinister content and, you know, websites that are devoted to how to get anorexia, how to self-harm, all of that kind of stuff, they can't possibly be making as much money as a website selling fantastic skinny tops and nice trousers. Why would one thing be profitable against another?
It seems really counterintuitive, I think, and it's taken me so long to sort of get to grips with this. And I think if you strip it back to how the platform's algorithms are designed, they're designed by people to do a job. For Meta, if you're talking about Instagram, and other platforms, of course, as well. But they're designed to keep people on that platform, because that's how they make money. Because when someone's on the platform, you can be receiving adverts from that platform. Those adverts make the platform money. When you're on a platform, your data is being mined, and the profiling that goes on of you as an individual by that platform is also used to make money, because they can target adverts and sell adverts for a greater fee if they're selling targeted adverts to someone.
Okay. You also feature some of Molly's friends in the film who are just gosh, how lovely they all are.
They're the best thing in it.
Oh my goodness, they are amazing. And obviously they've got a clarity of vision, haven't they? And they say such interesting things. One of them says, we didn't realise, but we were just living in a world that was completely about competition. And that's what the internet had created. And also they talk about the fact that they just weren't ever free. And that is a truth for all of us now, isn't it?
It is. But I think the world is waking up. And if the best thing about Molly's Friends is that wonderful connection they had to her, which is so obvious when you see them speaking, and the warmth and love that they still have for Molly. And the fact that they're the closest thing that we've got to being able to speak to Molly if she was in her early 20s now. And you can see how they really do quite understand this world in a way that perhaps people of my generation and parents who didn't grow up with digital technology don't. And I think it might be quite daunting, but it's not as frightening or hard as it might seem to begin to become aware of how the digital world is. I use the phrase mugging us off. If I go into schools and do a talk, I only need to say this whole thing about a platform needing you to be on their product in order to make money. Why are the little red notification circles on your smartphone? Why are they red? I'm told that's because a psychologist many years ago said it's ever so slightly harder to ignore something that's red. If it was a little green circle, you might come back to it later. You want to get rid of that red circle, so you go into the platform. When you're in the platform, why is there infinite scroll? Because you're there longer. Why are there autoplay videos? Because you're there longer. And if you point that out to 11 and 13-year-olds in classrooms today, they get it instantly. And if you use the phrase, be aware when you're online about when a platform might be mugging you off, you can see their eyes lighting up. And you can see, I've had kids come up to me and say, look, they show me their phone, and I go, what? I've deleted Instagram, I've deleted TikTok, because they completely understand it. So the steps that you need to take, and the awareness that all of us need to have to be safer in this world when we're using digital technology, aren't as huge or daunting as I think we might fear they could be.
Are we helped by our government in particular at the moment? We've had the Online Safety Act. When you talk to government, and I hope that government listens, are you impressed or not impressed?
The Online Safety Act took too long to come to pass. It was 5 years going through Parliament, or maybe even longer. Ofcom were given a time limit of 18 months to implement the Act as a regulator, independent regulator empowered by the Act. We're beyond that now, and things are still being sorted and looked at, and codes of practice are being tweaked. So it's just taken too long. And I think that's a measure of the dusty old relic of a world in which we live. And it's causing, I think, many problems for society. We live in a world that has done pretty well up until now at moving quite slowly, because if you move slowly, you can go cautiously and you change things carefully. If you move too fast, you can cause problems. You can't do that when you're talking about problems created by technology, because the technology moves at lightning pace. And we've given social media a 2-decade head start in a race that they're moving faster in. So we have to move at lightning speed. So when it comes to governments, they've tried, but they have not moved fast enough. And the disappointing thing is, if I talk to, there's so many other bereaved parents. It's sadly a growing number. But when we get together and we talk, the most disappointing thing, the hardest thing for any of us to bear, is inaction, because we know that inaction is letting us get further behind in that race.
And what does inaction look like? I mean, is that Liz Kendall not returning your calls? Is that not being heard? What is it? I think we're on a pivot point, because inaction has looked like many things. It's looked like secretaries of state
kicking the can of the Online Safety Act when it was a bill going through Parliament down the road and insisting on pre-legislative scrutiny, which was a time-consuming process. It probably led to a better act, to be fair, but it took time. And there was this, I can't remember the number of Secretaries of State, 8 Secretaries of State, 5 Prime Ministers, something like that. I can't remember the figures. There's so many that it took to get the act. And then when the current government came to power, there were really promising signs. Together with other bereaved families, we were in the office of Peter Kyle, who was the DSIT Secretary of State at the time. He said he took this matter very seriously and he'd do something about it. 18 months or more went by and next to nothing was done. That caused all sorts of problems. But now there seems to be a change of attitude and there seems to be some tough talking and an acceptance that where we are, the status quo, is not acceptable, that it's causing too many problems, it's spreading too much misery, there's too many parents who are rightly concerned about their children, and something has to change, and that change has to come at lightning speed in governmental terms.
Right. There has been an interesting story today from Instagram, which is saying that for the first time, Meta, which is the parent company, will proactively alert parents to searches by their child on Instagram for harmful material, as long as parents and teens have enrolled in the Teen Accounts Experience in this country, America, Australia and Canada. So I mean, that, for people who don't know, is where on your teenager's account, you have some kind of access. Your teenager has said, I am under 18 and this is the ultimate parental control. So you have to have had that kind of initial bond. But that's a move in the right direction, isn't it?
Well, firstly, I think if I was a parent unaware of a mental health problem with my child, unaware that they may be self-harming or even thinking about suicide, of course I'd want to know. I'd want to know so that I could do something about it. So I think that goes without saying. But if you look behind this headline, I think it's entirely a PR move. This is based on experience. Every time there's tough and difficult news that comes out. When we first told Molly's story, there was a whole load of changes that Adam Mosseri, the head of Instagram, announced that they would no longer allow graphic self-harm content, for example. Not quite sure why they were allowing it in the first place, but at least that was a change in 2018 when Molly's story was first told. But every time there's a tough bit of comms to negotiate, from a PR point of view, they so often announce a new safety measure. And then with the benefit of time and hindsight, you can look back and see that the safety measures don't do what Meta say. If you take Teen Accounts alone, they, I think they claim, if I remember the numbers rightly, there are 53 different tools on Instagram's teen accounts. Now, the Molly Rose Foundation, together with a Facebook whistleblower who knows the inside workings of both Meta and Instagram, Arturo Bejar, together with an American organisation called Fair Play, who looks into these things, and others. So there was a group of us all looked into the teen accounts. We could analyse 47 of those 53 accounts, and in our opinion, Meta would disagree with this, but in our opinion, only 8 performed as Meta described. So they brag about over 50 tools to keep kids safe. We don't think they deliver on that. And that's dangerous because that can create a false sense of safety. If parents switch off and think, oh, look, it's fine, I've switched on the teen accounts, they'll be safe now, and they're not working, it's worse than not having them sometimes.
You're absolutely right. And also the thing that you said just a couple of moments ago, Ian, is absolutely spot on. Why is that stuff there in the first place? And you've got to think about the people who create these sites, who create that content. You know, these aren't faceless machines. There are people involved at every level in this. We've only got a couple of moments left, Ian, and I mean, I hope this isn't too painful of me to ask you to do this, but can we just talk a tiny bit about Molly? Because what absolutely shines through in your film is just what a gorgeous, gorgeous creature she was. And as you said, she was absolutely adored by her wonderful friends. And she deserves to be here in this room with us, actually, doesn't she? I know she would always be with you. But just tell us a bit more about her.
Well, I would say as her dad, but she was, I've got I still say got. I've got 3 lovely daughters. Molly was the youngest, and she was the most amazing of persons. She was sort of emotionally intelligent, bright, but not sort of super brilliant at school. And the most impressive thing about her was she was never quite like being the centre of attention. But if she felt something wasn't right, if I was perhaps picking on one of her sisters at the dinner table or something, I could remember her eyes flicking between us at the dinner table, and she'd be weighing up what was going on. And she'd gather the information, she'd make up her mind, and if she thought I'd crossed the line, she'd shout out and put her hand up and shout, "Stop it, Dad!" And she would stand up for anything that she felt was unjust or unfair. One of the most caring. She was only 14 when she died, but she was one of the most caring people I've ever known. And I think that does come out through Molly's friends. I think that does come out in the film. And I urge anyone to see it. It's in cinemas. It premieres this weekend on Sunday, the 1st of March. And it's on Channel 4, not tonight, in fact. It's on Channel 4 a different Thursday, next Thursday the 5th.
Right, my
at 9
apologies.
p.m. No,
it's a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. I do think it's a really, really remarkable film, and I would urge everybody to watch it. Really lovely to meet you. You're an amazing person, Ian, for doing what you do, and it's appreciated by many, many of us.
Thank you.
So it's Channel 4 next Thursday.
Next Thursday the 5th, yeah.
Got you. Thank you very much, Ian.